Hi folks, this is a video about the occultic aspects of Flight 77 on September 11th. And the picture that you see here is of the actual aircraft that was allegedly involved in the incident. Um, I say allegedly because I don't believe that the aircraft that you see in this picture actually hit the Pentagon. I don't know what it was. I don't know where this aircraft went. If it wasn't that, I don't have all the answers, but I'm pretty sure that what we're told is not actually the truth. But I really don't know what is the truth. Um, it's important to remember, too, just generally speaking, you don't have to know what the truth is to know that you're being lied to. So anyway, without going down that rabbit hole, this video is not about the technical aspects of this flight. It's about the occultic aspects. So that being said, let's look at AA77 and this guy again, Aliester Crowley. Now you see his logo there on the bottom left. Now, do you see AA and 77 anywhere in that logo? You know that it's very plain. It's very obvious. Um, just his logo contains AA77, and keep in mind too, AA, like I've mentioned before in another video, numerologically that's 11. 11 is a very occultically significant, highly magical, potent number, so they believe. Now look at this picture on the left, on the right rather, of Crowley. You see on the bottom right-hand corner of that picture a pentagram, and it's right side up. Sometimes you see a pentagram inverted. They have a different meaning whether it's right side up or inverted. I really don't know the difference between those meanings. I'm not interested in occultic stuff very much, so I really don't care. But what is interesting about this picture is that in the center of the Pentagon, or in the center of the pentagram, you see a pentagon. Now, here we go, just for comparison here. You see the Crowley's book on the left. You see the Pentagon in Washington in the center. The groundbreaking, interestingly enough, for the Pentagon in Washington was September 11th, 1941. And the location of the Pentagon is on the 77th meridian in Alexandria, Virginia. Now, that's really kind of weird. Now, you will notice in this picture of the Pentagon in the center that it's not straight up and down. It's kind of like it's off center a little bit to the left. That's kind of interesting because if you look up, as I did here in the picture that you see on the right, you can see the Venus zodiac pentagram. Now, I'm really not sure what this is, but when you Google this, uh, you get a lot of these diagrams like this. Some are straight up and down, some are tilted slightly right, some are tilted slightly left. When they're tilted slightly left, then the pentagon shape in the middle of the pentagram looks just like it does in Washington, D.C., with the same orientation. Now, as far as what this actually is, it's something about tracking the movement of the planet Venus through the zodiac throughout the year or something. And if you trace some lines in a certain way, you end up with a five-pointed star. That, I think, is the reason why the pentagram is such a really big deal in Satanism, either right side up or upside down or whatever. Uh, it's because, look, the planet Venus, according to Wikipedia, this comes from their article on Lucifer. Look at the paragraph just below the picture. It says Lucifer is a name that, according to dictionaries of the English language, refers to either the devil or the planet Venus when appearing as the morning star. So I really think that it does explain why the Satanists are so fascinated with pentagrams. It's their logo because that's the some sort of a path or something traced out by the planet Venus throughout the year, and Venus is Lucifer, supposedly. So anyway, that's that's really interesting stuff. Uh, let's look at something else here. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I think that this is significant. You know, of course, what the one on the right is, and I've already shown you what the logo on the left is. But what's the one in the center? Um, this logo that you see on the left from Aliester Crowley's organization, the AA, he didn't just draw this himself. He didn't just come up with it himself. He got it from somewhere. Where did he get it from? He got it from some diagrams from John Dee. This is a diagram that was made by Dr. John Dee. John Dee, if you don't know, an advisor to Queen Elizabeth of England, Elizabeth I. This was the daughter of Henry VIII. So this is the year roughly 1580 something. John Dee received this diagram through scrying sessions. That's fancy talk for looking at a crystal ball. With his crystal ball looker, or his scryer, was Edward Kelly. And these entities called Enochian angels, through this crystal ball, gave this diagram to Edward Kelly, who passed it on to John Dee. These Enochian angels gave them a series of rituals which were designed to, once you had done all of these rituals, the purpose of the rituals was to basically open up 49 gates. 49, remember, is 7 times 7. Open up 49 gates to basically allow the forces of Satan, who's known as Chorazin or something like that, to come through 4 watchtowers into our world and basically create Armageddon and hell on earth. Essentially, literally, the book of Revelation, the beginning of that stuff, the apocalypse of Revelation was supposed to be begun by performing these rituals in the right way, complete with Antichrist incarnate. So this is very, very serious, deep, dark, black magic stuff. Even the occultists who fool around with this stuff are literally terrified by it in a lot of cases. Crowley was in this stuff up to his eyeballs. So this is really significant, weird stuff. There are a lot of connections to the occult here. Notice, too, in this diagram from John Dee, in the very center of that pentagram, you see, of course, the inverted Pentagon. There's a really high level of correlation between all this stuff. It's hard to know what to throw at you first, because so many things are so interconnected. It's hard to find a logical way to present this stuff so that it's the most persuasive. But maybe I've jumped the gun here with this stuff a little bit. We'll get back to this Enochian stuff at a later time, because I'm only just getting started with the Enochian stuff. That is a deep, dark rabbit hole, and I'll tell you more about that later. But at any rate, let's move on here a little bit more. Look at this, the Libri of Aliester Crowley. Libri is the plural of Liber. Liber is the singular. This comes from the same word that we get libertarian or liberty from. This was a group of writings written by Crowley for his people in the AA. All right. Liber 77, you see right here. Basically, Crowley, and you see his little perverted signature at the bottom. Crowley was basically saying people have the right to do whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it, with whoever they want to do it. Number 5 says, man has the right to kill those who would thwart these rights. There was a whole lot of killing going on that day. That's really kind of significant. This is Liber 77 by Aliester Crowley. All right. Now, there's a sidetrack here. We'll come back to that in a second. We see George Bush reading a story called The Pet Goat from this book that you see here. This comes from the Wikipedia article on the right. That's the actual book. The Pet Goat is the story in the book, not the title of the book. And you see George Bush reading from this book, or being read to from the book. I don't know exactly which one it was, but anyway, the story is The Pet Goat. Now look at the title now for Liber 77 on Wikipedia's entry on their list of the Libri of Aliester Crowley. All right, the title of Liber 77 is Liber Oz, the Book of the Goat. And George Bush was reading this right before, minutes before Flight 77 struck the Pentagon. That is just beyond weird. That is really weird. So anyway, let's look at this here. What is this airplane? This airplane was seen flying mysteriously over Washington, D.C. during the Pentagon attacks and shortly after for like maybe a couple of hours or something. People were freaked out by it, didn't know what it was, why it was circling at only maybe about 3,000 feet or something, and nobody really knew. Um, it has since come out through FOIA requests. Uh, the What the call sign of this aircraft was, we get that from the actual transcripts or the recordings, I forget which, between air traffic control and the pilots of this aircraft. It was an American Air Force E-4B, electronics warfare surveillance type plane. It's actually really more of a mobile command post, something like that. The Air Force has four of these and each one has their own unique call sign. The call sign for this one that was flying over Washington, D.C., according to the FOIA request, was Venus 77, and you see it right there in the bottom left. That would be the plane in the foreground, I think. You see the names of the other ones here. So Venus 77 was flying over the Pentagon at the time that it was being attacked by Flight 77, Venus being basically Lucifer. Uh, yeah. So anyway, let's look at this one here. Now this one requires a little bit of explanation, just to keep it simple, so you can so that the math is easy. Look at the Saturn over here on the left. Saturn equals 15. These are called magic squares. They're very important in the occult. I'm not sure why. But they just are. And you can add 4, 9, and 2, you get 15. You add 4, 3, and 8, you get 15. You add 3, 5, and 2, you get 15. 4, 5, 6, 15. Any of the verticals, any of the horizontals, and the diagonal, you can add them all up, and no matter which way you add it, you always get 15. And the sum total of it is 45. Now, this would be called a 3 by 3 square. So Saturn, which equals 15, is a 3 by 3. Now, look at Venus. All right, with Venus, Venus is a 7 by 7 square. And, you know, here's an interesting side note, and I think that this is important. Okay, 7 by 7, you've got a total of 49 squares on this magic square, 49 of them. All right. The number 49 is very significant in Enochian magic, this stuff going back to John Dee and the Enochian angels and stuff like that. Because these Enochian angels told him through this scrying session stuff that there are 49 gates that have to be opened with, I think it's 30 keys, in order for the forces of Satan to come through past 4 watchtowers into this world. So they're going after opening 49 gates. So whenever you see the number 49 and probably the number 77 anywhere in the occult, that's likely what it's referring to. I'll have more about that kind of stuff later on. But anyway, look at the number of Venus here. You add any of these rows or columns up together, and the number you get is 175. And 175, of course, is the flight number for the second plane that hit the World Trade Center. And that's the one I'll be talking about next. Thank you very much for watching.